Welcome back to the Curate for Women Network. Today we are with the lovely Miss Michelle Lanoix.
You got it. Nailed it.
Yes. I love when people have such fancy names that you have to like practice before you.
You should have heard. So I used to have my home office used to be in LA. And so when I'd call customer service, they'd be like, Lanoix, Lanoux, I'm like, there's no G in this, it's Lanoix.
That is so crazy. Why do we always want to pronounce an X?
It's always silent.
Like, stop putting, okay, well, leave the X out.
And we're Louisiana. The Boudreaux, Thibodeau, the Lanoix, the Go. We spell everything crazy.
All the names. First of all, in Louisiana, in New Orleans, there's an exit. I don't understand the spelling of the Tchoupitoulas. Eggs. I'm like, that is not how you spell Tchoupitoulas. And you know, we'll put the name Tchoupitoula across the screen so that everyone who's not from Louisiana can see how obnoxious that is. It's worse than pneumonia.
It is. Just know when you're on Jeopardy and that's the final double
I lost.
question, you'll know how to spell it now.
I lost. I'm out. Count me out. I can't spell it. Ladies, for those of you who are not from Louisiana, that's not from Baton Rouge, and for those of you who are from here that is not familiar with Miss Michelle, Michelle is the, because I don't know if the term is up, the chairman or the chair
woman.
Of the chairwoman.
Mm-hmm. Gonna get that right.
The chairwoman of the Best Dress Ball. Michelle, tell us what the Best Dress Ball is.
Awesome. So the Baton Rouge Best Dress Ball, it's actually the Excel Baton Rouge Best Dress Ball now, is a local charity event that supports the American Cancer Society. They are the beneficiary of our event. And it's an annual event that takes an entire 12 months to plan, execute, really nail. There's a lot of moving parts and it is all volunteer led. So what that means is we all have full-time jobs. We're all professional women. We're all moms, homemakers. There is just a extraordinary nuts to bolts of all the women, and it makes it so dynamic. It makes it so fun. But we raise money. We're a fundraising organization, volunteer led. It is to support the services and actually the families of patients who are going through cancer treatment. And obviously cancer doesn't discriminate. It can show up and nobody ever wants to hear those three words, you have cancer, but it can happen any day, in any time frame, in any month. And we all want to make sure that we're armed and prepared so our families can create and make a successful journey of recovery and remission.
Sure. First of all, you have done an amazing job with the Best Dress Ball. The Best Dress Ball is like a mini Met Gala.
It is. Oh my goodness. It is like everybody shows up and shows out. It is time to shine and people really, but you know what? What I love about that is people really think about it and they make it a big deal. And the reason it's a big deal is because of community.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just me. We have a 40 group of women volunteers, and then we have 9 of us that sit on an executive committee, and everybody takes such pride in showing up and knowing that we're there for a good cause.
I mean, when you attend an event that is that level of excellence, I mean, this is top tier, right?
Thank you.
It's almost like you have FOMO when you don't go to the Best Dress Ball. I love that it is volunteer led. So everyone who is a part of this, they have a heart for it. So what is your passion behind this? Why American Cancer Society? Why Best Dress Ball for you?
So my why is simple. I had a mom that has battled cancer twice. She is actually in remission, and so we as a family are winning that fight.
Yeah.
I have many friends who have lost the battle. One in particular, our dear friend Holly Stars, just last year, or this year, I'm sorry, we're in 2022. She battled and fought so long. So many friends, so many colleagues, peers. I was in the healthcare industry for 17 years, so I had a front row seat to surgery and taking cancers out of patients, but then the path after that is really what's the hardest on families. So my why is simple for the cancer community, and that's why our event, the Best Dress Ball, benefits the American Cancer Society, but it's also the community. I have a heart for our community, and whatever I can do to help.
I hate the word cancer. Cancer is like, it, like you said, it doesn't discriminate. It definitely just picks whoever, and you just have to, you got to fight and do, you know, and deal with the cards that are dealt to you. Is it personal like this for everybody who serves for you, or you know, do you have women who work with you that are just like, you know, no, this isn't personal for me, you know, I don't know anybody, or, you know, whatever, but I just want to do this because I want to be a part of this community?
Yep. I think it's a little bit of both. At the beginning of every year, we invite anyone who wants to join us as a volunteer organization. We actually are expanding this brand this year, and we want to be able to reach more people and more entities, not just the American Cancer Society. So it's actually, this is a breaking news. We are actually starting something called the Impact Circle. And what that is going to do is allow us to train and develop women in volunteerism. And it's not, you know, a junior league or something specific where you all of our time is valuable, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so how about we all get together and collaborate on what volunteerism looks like, and then give multiple entities the opportunity to come and support and get support from volunteers. So when you ask me specifically about this, I think it's both. I think people have a heart for it because it's personally touched them directly or indirectly. And then secondly, they can see the why. You can touch, feel, see. We raise over $1 million every year. Those dollars then translate into, once the slates are set and those donations are made, whether it's transportation grants, whether it's access to care, whether it's the hotel lodging partnership with American Cancer Society and our brands of hotels, you can see where those dollars go. The dollars that you don't see is the dollars that go into research. Right? If you lived in Texas, but we raised $1 million here and a research grant was being funded, you're still going to be the beneficiary of research that were done. I love choosing an organization that those dollars goes back into research because that is going to benefit our next generations, the generations 2 and 3, generations that are far to come way when we're gone.
What misses a lot of people who support organizations is that they don't know where the money is going. They don't understand why that much money is even necessary to be raised. But outside of that, you said that your mom battled cancer twice.
She did.
What was that like when you were growing up? Did she have cancer when you were a young girl?
So she was in her early 30s. I was a teenager at that point. And we didn't live in the same city at that time. But I just remember her second diagnosis. The first one I don't really remember too much, but her second diagnosis, you know, it changes your life immediately, you know, whether you are employed and you're working or whether you have a trip to Europe planned. I don't know, but it stops you in your track, and the whole trajectory of like what's to come looks differently. So I just remember, you know, it's all also mental. Right? It's about positivity and how you go in it with your mindset.
For sure.
And it's hard for patients when you're going through that. I've never walked that walk personally. All I know is what I've experienced from others. So it is secondhand. But you have good days and you have bad days. And it's hard to stay positive. We're all human, right? It's hard to stay positive when we don't have cancer. So just keeping that mindset, and that's where I found I could be a resource to her in the positivity. Like, you've got this. Like, you're going to win. I had a dear friend who was just diagnosed with breast cancer, which is interesting because it's October, you know, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I love that we do. We have prostate awareness. We have lung awareness month. We have breast cancer awareness month. And those are awareness months, but we need to be aware all year long. 365.
Every day.
24/7, 365. Every day we need to be aware because guess what? Breast cancer is not going to wait for October.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So.
And even, I mean, I think it's beautiful that you have these months to acknowledge and to inform people. of these things. But what would you say to, someone who is just like, I'll cross that bridge when I get there?
I can understand that perspective, because nobody wants to live in fear or the what if. But just know when you donate your time or your money, because some of us we don't all have the money to just give, but what I can give is my time and my heart.
Yeah.
And so the way I think about that is, the what if, there are things that are in place and things that are happening, and that train is moving down the track for the just in case.
Yeah.
And that's why we fight. That's why we raise money. That's why we raise awareness. I love that you said, I love that we get the acknowledgement of the different ones each month or different months. But it's being aware in those times, but then knowing that those resources, and there is going to be a team of professionals, healthcare professionals, support for you and your family all the way through, no matter when.
How long have you done this with the American Cancer Society?
So this is my 9th year being on some sort of executive team or leadership with this organization. If you've never been to the ball or would love to go, I was like you. I sat in the room for the first time and I'm like, oh, wow. Now it's exponentially grown over those 9 years.
Absolutely.
But I was just like, oh my goodness, like all these people are together, and like it was a reason. It's like, adult prom, and we all got dressed up, and like I got a date and we have a dinner, and like this is awesome.
And cheeseburgers.
And cheeseburgers at the end. But it literally at the end of the night, you're like, holy moly, like we just made a significant impact, not only for our community, but beyond.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like, oh, we're Baton Rouge and we're small and we're this and we're that. We're a small city in the grand scheme of things, but we're powerful and mighty.
For sure.
And that's just a testament to it.
For sure. And then to see like how well the community comes together.
It does.
You meet so many people on this night, and everybody's like in the same headspace. Like everybody's kind of on the same vibe. Like we're drinking, we having fun, we're raising money.
That's right.
And we're making impact, and we're making a difference. So outside of this, what do you do? What is your trade? What is your thing that keeps you going every day?
So I'm a professional. I am the Director of Talent Acquisitions for Assurance Financial, which has been a career shift for me. I was in healthcare for 17 years. I was a medical device rep, so I was in surgery, which was awesome because I could I'm like, man, maybe I should go back to medical school. When I was 30, I never forget when I turned 30, I was like, you know what? I could do this. I've been, a rep, and I've been partnering and a part of my surgical teams for years. I can go do this. And then I started digging into it, and I'm like, whoa, that's 10 years, like a lot more student loans I'm still paying off the first round. I'm like, maybe I'll just start doing this.
Just don't worry about it.
But now in my professional career, I have the opportunity to meet people across the nation and identify talent and open branches of Assurance Financial to fit our culture and the mortgage industry.
Michelle,
and it's awesome.
You have a job.
I have a job, yeah.
You have like a worker, like a job. For real, how do you make time to volunteer? Because American Cancer Society, that's not the only organization that you volunteer for, right?
It's not, no.
What else do you do?
There is the Bella Bowman Foundation for Kim and Trey. I do work with them. I'm in the Junior League of Baton Rouge, but last 3 months, I've put my 9 years in, and here I go.
God. Michelle, how do you balance Best Dress Ball and Junior League? Junior League is a machine in itself, and it's like, you better have the hours to donate because they need you.
This is what I would say. For me, I make time for what's important.
Yeah.
Whether it's volunteer work, whether it's my friends, whether it's my family, whether it's obviously always my career. My great-grandmother always told me, she said, take care of your job and your job will take care of you.
Yeah.
Which is hands down correct. You make time.
Yeah.
I'm not the girl, though, that's going to come home and sit in front of the TV. And I don't like to cook, so my poor husband, he is out on that one,
I mean, but was that an expectation when y'all got married?
Yes, no. I've always been like that. Oh. So, no. Like,
you're not whipping them pots, and then as soon as you get married, it's like, all right.
Oh, no. No, it didn't flip the script.
Oh.
But It's making time that's the way I look at it. I make time. I'm organized, and you know what? Sometimes I can't do everything, but I try. And at the end of this life, we just lost a dear, dear friend. And at the end of this life, I don't want to be known or recognized for the things that I've have or accumulated.
Right.
I want to be remembered and leave my legacy on how I made people feel.
Yeah.
And that is in every interaction, every day.
Yeah.
I love people with a passion.
Yeah, you do. And you give the best hugs.
Thank you.
You do. You give the best
That's
hugs.
like my trademark, my hug. Like I do. I want to just.
I know, your hugs feel like a weighted blanket.
Yeah, perfect. I do. I just love people.
I think the first time we ever sat down with each other was like, oh my gosh, I love you so much.
Yes. So for anybody that doesn't know, we literally met at a lunch with you and your incredible husband, Ross, and it was an immediate connection.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but I came in, I'm like, give me that hug. I want that hug. I want that hug.
I was like, how did you know it was me?
Easy. I want to know what makes people tick. I want to know their story. I love.
So who are you to your friends? Are you like the therapist? Are you like the knuck if you buck friend? Or are you like the let's go have a party and a drink friend? Or all of the above?
I would say to my friends, I'm not the networker, but I just like to pull people together.
Yeah.
I like and I thrive when there are groups of people. Sometimes that comes along with a price, but sometimes they get too big because I want to be inclusive of everyone. I'm like, well, we have to invite this person, that person. I just love to be together. So I think my friends would say that she's always up for planning something. So that's what I'm good at. You know, obviously, like in the best dress ball, has a lot of planning. So I just like to plan, and I like to make people feel good. If people are happy and they're like enjoying themselves, that's what feeds my soul.
What does vulnerability look like for you? And this could be different with different people, like, right? You have different layers of vulnerability for your friends, for your husband, for even your coworkers. But what does that look like for you?
To answer your question, vulnerability looks like to me is to really get down to the core of who I am. I probably have a little bit of a wall up with most people because I am relatively happy. Most of the time, I'm like, positive, I'm uplifting, I have a strong faith. My faith is really, really important to me. But vulnerability to me is, you know, everything's not perfect.
Yeah.
And although in certain phases of life, I've tried to be a perfectionist in some ways, and it's hardest on myself. But the letting just people kind of in, you know, what you see on the outside or what you think or how you think you know me from social media, I have stuff just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And so vulnerability for me is just peeling back the layers and truly getting to know me to the core and not using that in a negative way or against me.
And allowing people in to get to know you a little bit better. I love that. Vulnerability for me is like, that's one of my favorite words because it's one of my favorite traits for people when you actually experience that from them, when you know that they're being their authentic selves and they've kind of let that guard down where they trust you to share like their most intimate details. However, that's not a space that belongs to everyone.
Sure.
So, you know, obviously there's always that room where you have to keep your guard up and you have to protect yourself. Vulnerability also takes a lot of courage. And so what does that look like when do you feel like your most courageous self?
I feel most courageous in my faith, truly, because it empowers me personally. I feel courageous also in my maturity and my life experience. I'm in my 40s now, and those phases have looked different, right? So my 20s, I was very career driven, and I wanted to check all the boxes, you know, get married, do this, blah, blah. In my 30s, it was making everybody happy and creating, not being fake, but just creating who I wanted to be. I was raised with my great-grandmother. She came from an old school thought, you know, that's important. I mean, when you're raised, y'all know y'all's grandparents or your great-grandparents, they are different. I think they are the best generation that will ever live and walk the face of this planet. But that comes along with some, like, there's rules and regulations. Discipline. It is not a discipline and free for all.
Yeah.
So,
so tell me about your great-grandmother.
Oh my gosh. She's the best.
She raised you.
She did.
Wow.
So I had teenage parents.
Okay.
And my great-grandmother got me at 4 months old.
Wow.
And she was the best human. I just lost her last year at 98 and a half.
Oh, wow.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
But she was everything. She was mom, she was dad. She was a career woman.
Yeah.
She took care of everything flawlessly. And I have to say, all of my DNA and the way that I want to live my life and give back to my community and the people that I love, she poured into everyone the same exact way. And I'm so proud to be her great-granddaughter.
Yeah. So was your grandmother was your great-grandmother strict? Was she like, really?
Oh my gosh. She was so strict.
Do you think that she was strict because you had teenage parents and didn't want you to be that?
No, I think she was strict by nature.
Yeah, okay.
She had very high standards for not only herself, but everyone around her. And high standards not in you have to do this or you have to be that or you have to live a certain way. It was just standards. It was respect.
Yeah.
It was being kind.
Yeah.
Being a good human. Those were the things that she was strict about. I'll never forget. So we lived in our house and I was, she was like, children, that mentality was children are to be seen and not heard, right? Like, if I'm having a meeting, you are not like playing your toys and like, we didn't have phones then, but.
Right.
And so I remember she was like, when you walk down the hall, don't run, walk.
Wow.
And don't drag your finger on the wall. Like it wasn't a museum, but like, she was like, be very respectful of like your house and your home and this is where you live. And so I remember I used to play this game because we had these 3 rugs like down our hall and I would run walk because I wasn't running. I wasn't running, so I would run walk. And then, the floor is lava. So you jump over the spaces. So it was just, she just had like a respect and she was always so put together. Mm-hmm. She looked like $1,000,000 all the time, even though she didn't feel like it maybe some days, or that doesn't mean she was dripping in diamonds. She just was always put together because she said, show up for who you want to be that day.
For sure. Could you imagine the kind of discipline that it takes to not only raise your kids and your grandkids, but then your great-grandkids? It's like, at what point do you just retire as a mom and just relax?
But that was who she was.
Yeah.
She never stopped.
Is that who she wanted to be? Do you think that is who she absolutely wanted to be?
I think that's who she wanted to be because until the day that she took her last breath, her family was the most important to her.
Yeah.
And it was keeping them together.
Yeah.
Even though we all have stuff, right? Families are never perfect. But she was always like, you know what? Now it's your job to keep our family together.
Yeah.
And that was so important to her. So she was going to mom and even some of our closest family friends still to this day, like she was their grandmother.
Yeah.
She was, and it was just her heart.
And so what about your grandmother?
So my grandmother,
very close to her too?
I wasn't as close with her. There was obviously a generational gap and then I came along, so she was in adulthood and had her own children obviously at that point, and grandchildren.
Yeah.
But no, she and I weren't as close. As I got older, we became closer, but my great-grandmother, she was it.
She's a rock star.
A rock star. She lived with her boyfriend in Slidell at 98 and a half. You heard that right. Like,
grandma was a high girl.
Oh yeah, and all the things.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget when her Uncle Marco is what I called him. I've known him my whole life. Uncle Marco said, I'm having a real hard time because I can't take communion at church anymore. And I was like, why? And he goes, because we're living in sin. And I'm like, okay.
Well,
I'm pretty sure he's not.
In Uncle Marco's defense, when you were speaking about your grandmother, I was like, oh man, this sounds like a nun. Like the nuns that they had when we were growing up. So were you raised Catholic?
So, no.
Okay.
I was raised in a Methodist church.
Okay.
But she never went to church.
Okay.
And so all my friends went there, so I would ride my bike there, and that's the only reason I went to a Methodist church.
But a Methodist church is pretty, like, strict, right?
I guess. I didn't know any other churches until I got to the Catholic church when I got married.
Catholic church is like, it's interesting because it's like, it's kind of strict, but they are like the most free people ever.
Right.
And then you have like Baptist people who it's like, they don't have a whole lot of rules. There's just a lot of standards.
Right.
And there's like, you better not, you know. And so it's interesting how religion shaped a lot of different cultures. They shaped a lot of the ways that we were raised and how we grew up. And so you growing up Methodist and being like, are you still Methodist?
No, so I'm Catholic.
Okay.
I was christened Catholic. Okay. But then the gap, that wasn't something that was really strong from her perspective. I just went because of this. It was really like, let's be honest, social aspect. All my friends from school, and it was the church in my neighborhood, so I'd ride my bike there, you know, put on my dress, ride the bike there, the whole deal. Yeah. But now as an adult, obviously I got married in the Catholic church. But now I go to a non-denominational church because as an adult and just the way I feel and connect, I love it. I love to sing. And of course, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm crying every time I leave church. I'm like, what is going on? Lord literally has come down and he's touching me every time. Every time I cry, I'm like, what is the deal? Like, you leave a blubbering
What are you
idiot.
trying to say to me, God?
I'm like, okay, I get it. I feel you. I'm here.
Yeah. So you went from being Methodist to Catholic to now non-denomination. This is probably the most free that you can get as it concerns, because now I feel like, and this is it could be like a generational thing too, where we're more focused on our relationship with God and not necessarily like the rules and the stipulations and the standards that come along with practicing this religion. Okay, so you were married Catholic. You're now, how long have you been married?
9 years. Almost 9 years.
Listen.
That's a lot. Yeah, almost 9 years.
You made a lot of commitments 9 years ago.
Let me tell you something. Marriage is one of the hardest jobs you will ever have in your entire life for a whole gamut of reasons.
No matter how much you love, like, adore your spouse.
That's right.
It is not easy.
It's life. Yeah. It's life. And we're humans and life gets in the way. And look, I think by nature, as women and humans, we like write our story, right? Or we think we know what our story is going to look like. And when that story deviates, it's not how you react, but how you respond. And sometimes we're not ready for that.
How did you meet your husband?
At Red Dress Run in New Orleans. I met my spouse in a dress.
You did?
With ruffles. Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, and he had a cast on his foot, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, so he is a wounded bird.
Okay, so
see, I was like the lion. I went after the like wounded gazelle.
I'm looking at you and I'm listening to this and I'm like, okay, how? He was in a dress. He was in a poofy dress.
Yeah.
And a boot.
A boot. Yep.
Okay.
And we had mutual friends, never known each other, and we had a great time that day.
Clearly,
and
you
that
thought
was
his
it.
face was beautiful because everything else was.
He's a very good-looking dude. So yeah, there was definitely the attraction.
Okay, so y'all met at the Red Dress Run, and then what? Y'all just started talking. Did you like instantly connect with him?
We did. We all hung out like in a group that day, and we just had a lot of fun, the whole crew. And the next week, he called me and asked if he could take me out, and of course, like. My upbringing, I'm like, sure, but now with this new age woman that I'm like, I will meet you there. And he's like, no, I'm going to pick you up and like the whole deal. Because he had heard, I told him about my great grandmother. And so he did. And it was actually come correct.
Okay.
And it was raining that day.
Oh.
So when he brought the umbrella to the door to come and pick me up, I was like, well. Now we got something to talk about.
Okay. He brought the umbrella to the door.
To the door, yes. I was like,
Chivalry is
I've never seen that umbrella again, by the way.
Does he open your door for you?
No, he does not. That's
okay.
So that's where I'm saying, like, Okay. It went sideways. He's really bringing his best effort that day.
He definitely knew how to reel it in.
I'm like, okay, well.
But then, Michelle, you also strike me as the type of woman that's like, all right, thank you. That was nice, but please do not do that.
I'm definitely a alpha female with, I got a lot of independence going on.
Okay, first date, y'all go on this date. Because, you tell your grandmother. I'm sure you gave her all the details.
Not yet. He wasn't there. I didn't know. Okay. I kept her out of the loop, only on the important ones.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
When did your grandmother know about your boyfriend at the time?
We were probably about a month in, and it was time I had to go and I would see her weekly, a couple times a week sometimes. But it was Mother's Day, I think, or no, it was in August, so it was my birthday time frame. And so she was like, okay, well, do you want to bring someone? And I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. And so, of course, I preface him. I'm like, don't put your elbows on the table. Take off a piece of bread. Don't butter the whole thing and eat it. And all the things that he was very confused in. But she loved him and she thought he was precious. And
cool.
There we went. He asked her permission to get married and the whole deal.
And so in 9 years, how long have y'all been together? How long were y'all together before you got married?
A year and a half. So we've been together over 10.
Okay, so he's had 10 years to literally adore, meet your grandmother. Has she ever had to reprimand him for something?
No, he'll tell you the story. She told him when he asked for my hand in marriage, she said, yeah, sure. I think you're great and I love you and I'll give you the permission. She said, but if you hurt her, she goes, I'll kill you. She goes, I'm old. She goes, I'm old. I don't care to go to jail. And he was like, okay. And I was like, you could run at this point. This is the way. This is the one you can. But she was always so funny. She picked with them all the time and they had a good relationship. He tried to think that he was going to supersede me in favoritism, but that was never going to happen. No.
Because you had your whole life to learn this lady.
Correct.
You had your whole life to get yourself together.
She put me on a pedestal a long time ago. Yeah. That was a high pedestal for him to crawl.
Yeah, she did a lot. You were her great-grandchild.
I was her baby.
Okay, because I'm listening to this and I'm and I put so much pressure on my mom to you better be these kids' babysitter, mama.
Right.
And I know my mom is probably girl, I done raised 4 children, right? And now she has a gazillion grandkids, not from me, okay? But she has a gazillion grandkids. And I'm certain at this point that she's probably because she's retired, I'm ready to be a hot girl. Your great-grandmother, by the time my mom is a great-grandmother, she's going to be if y'all don't get out of my face.
I'm not even cooking anymore, she's going to tell you.
I don't think that you...
Now it's time for you to take care of me.
I don't even think you
and she started over.
understand that level of sacrifice that your I'm sure you do, but I'm sitting here and just amazed at that. We had a private conversation where you spoke about wanting to be a mom and not actually having the opportunity to naturally do so. Do you still desire to be a mom? Is that something that
So I think that is something that God puts on our heart, right?
Yeah.
The desires of our heart are not unheard.
Yeah.
It was a long battle. You and I talked about this, and I would love to share with your audience.
Yeah.
I think as women and in that space, we don't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
And infertility is a real thing.
Yeah.
It affects a lot of women and men. It's not just one or the other. In our situation, I was older. I was in my 30s at that point. I was ready to start a family. Very clear. We both had very clear path of what we wanted our life to look like. We wanted to build a family. And we found out very quickly within 6 months of marriage that our DNA to have children was not going to be possible.
Yeah.
And that was scientifically proven. So, of course, you go through loss and you go through grieving, and people deal with that differently.
Yeah.
And I mentioned earlier, it's not how we react, it's how we respond. And we didn't do a good job of that in the beginning. When you find out that, one person is is infertile, then later on down the years, you find out that both have fertility problems. Oh. There's so many other options.
In the beginning, did it cause any resentment between you and your husband?
The resentment came because we didn't create the grieving process together.
Okay.
We siloed.
Gotcha.
And unfortunately, that looks like a lot of different things, right? Like, I was grieving. I'm a fixer. I'm a communicator, obviously. Mm-hmm. My spouse is completely opposite.
Yeah.
On the opposite end of things.
Yeah.
And so he resorted to like internalizing everything. So it took us many, many years to get in counseling and being able to have a third party really help us work through those emotions.
Yeah.
It's essentially for us, the DNA portion is too late. I'm not going to be able to, even go to retrieval, but we spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to get there. And that's another like soapbox thing I could talk to you for an hour about if you ever do a segment on that. But for us to live in a country where we have the opportunity to have health care, infertility is not a choice.
Yeah.
It's not a choice.
Yeah.
And for that to have to be something you have to pay out of pocket for, and there not to be subsidized health care or insurance for it, just like, literally my face is probably getting red as we're talking. As it goes up.
Also, when people are not in that space, and this is what's dangerous for like people who are policy writers and lawmakers, that they're making laws on things that they aren't personally dealing with. So then it creates this space for them to be able to determine what the trajectory of your life is going to be, because there's a lot of people who cannot afford tens of thousands of dollars. Who, if they had the tens of thousands of dollars, they probably could be parents, right?
But you have to choose, because now adoption, I mean, I have on my heart, like, I just cannot not imagine like sharing love with another human. Families and like children does not mean DNA to me.
Am I too old for you to adopt?
No, I'll adopt you right now.
I'm 30. I'm 32.
I tell people that all the time. I have a dear friend, her parents, they just have 2 girls. I'm like, it wouldn't really be that much of a swing to add a 42-year-old to like your whole gig. Could you adopt me too?
Now I come with a husband and 3 children.
Love it.
I don't have any dogs.
I got 2 furs. Those are my 2 children. So see, I've got the dogs, you've got the kids. It's perfect.
Yeah. Do you plan on adopting children? Do you want to do that? Is that something that you and your husband want to do collectively?
Can't answer that.
Okay.
Is it something that I consider and I dream and pray a lot about? Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
But you're surrounded by so much love, right?
Yes.
I mean, we're in your beautiful home.
Blessed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us do this here.
Oh my gosh, anytime. You can come whenever you want. You know where the key is. Just come on in.
I tell Michelle, she keeps saying that, and she's going to be like, can y'all please get out? Or at least pay rent. But I was looking at the side of your fridge, and I'm like, there's so many beautiful children up there. I'm going to bring you a picture of Rossi.
Yes.
You put that on your fridge.
Please. Don't forget Cece.
And Cece. And Jaden, as a mom, my heart definitely aches for you and any woman who deals with fertility issues that want to experience this. And so I do hope that whatever decision, you guys make collectively, that you can live the rest of your lives thinking, I'm so happy.
It all kind of comes back around, right? It's full circle. A lot of people will say, how do you have time to like do all these things you're a part of and all of this? And it was hard for me for a long time to articulate that I give in those ways because that fills my heart.
Yeah.
And it fills a hole within me.
Yeah.
And if I find solace and happiness in giving back to others in whatever capacity, it's not self-serving.
For sure.
It is self-serving in the manner of it feeds my heart and my soul, but I don't have to be 13 places every night to run kids to basketball, all the things.
These are
and
facts.
We do. My niece and nephew live next door to me, and we make their sporting events, and it's so fun. But I don't have to do that. We do that because I want to, or we want to. But those are the things that I fill my time with to give me the happiness and fulfillment that others feel from other aspects of their life. And that's okay.
And I honestly think that you would still do this even if you had kids. Because I have friends, one friend in particular, I tell this girl all this, I'm like, I don't understand the time that you have. She has Beyonce hours because she is a part of every organization. She's in a sorority. She has 2 children. Her husband is a professional athlete, so he's never here, and so she's literally having to do all these things, and she loves it, and it's like hardly ever do you see her complain, and I just feel like it just speaks to what you said when you talk about how, you make time for the things that are important to you, you make time for the things that are necessary, really.
But it's all seasons, right?
Anything different.
It's seasons.
Yeah.
This season for you, you know, you have 2 littles, you have, an older child, you have your business, you have, and you are also like involving yourself and you show up and give your time also in different capacities. Yeah. Look, we are all busy. Yeah. We all have a lot on our plates in different manners. Yeah. But you still make time for it and it's all going to get done. And this is a season. It's a season of life. And how cool will it be when we all are in the slowdown season when we're older to take a look back and say like, man, that was so fun. Like I was exhausted and I was so tired and I never felt like I could like figure out what end was up. But what a great time of life.
That sounds like if I could picture what heaven looks like, it's like waterfalls and fresh air and like, that's what a season of rest sounds like to me. Almost like I can't even grasp it.
Right? You're like,
at this moment.
Look at that out there.
What is your biggest like self-care thing right now in this season?
That is a great question. I am working on that because I don't care enough for myself. So me pouring into other people, there's this fulfillment, but as I get older, we were talking about this earlier today. It's the time of rest that I'm finding like the most recovery. And so given to myself, let's see, what do I do? I love to travel. And so I have made a commitment to myself, like I'm going to make time for that. Yeah. We work hard, we play hard, we give hard. It's time to like enjoy hard and rest. I love spending quality time. Honestly, I look forward to like my 2 hours on Sundays when I get to go to church and like just give back to me. Yeah. And my faith.
That's why
you're
crying
That's why I'm crying. Every time I'm leaving there, I'm crying because I'm like, I'm so full. Like my cup is flowing, overflowing. Yeah. But that's how I'm caring for myself. And in all honesty, I see, she's not a therapist, but she's not a life coach, but she's someone who I respect and who has really great insight and intuition. And she's not in my like friend circle, and she just gives me perspective. And I make time to give myself that once a month for an hour, and we just reset and just give you perspective. Look, we all got a lot of outside factors, whether it's turmoil in work or challenges with friendships or life or whatever the case may be. She grounds me. And I'm like, you know what? I feel a higher power than me. Yeah. But like, this gives me confidence and like accuracy that like, you can change whatever it is going on in your life.
Yes. And you give back so much. I mean, you made 1 million commitments 9 years ago.
1 million.
You made 1 million commitments 9 years ago. And so, you mentioned church and this other external person. Why did I just call a person an entity?
I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, she is not human. She is of some other. It's awesome.
Right. That fills your cup. So are these your safe spaces?
They are. They're where I can be real. Not just in like my thoughts, but in my doubts. Yeah. And that's what I mean by being real. Nobody likes self-doubt, but there's times where you're just like, am I cut out for this? Or am I doing the right thing? Or why do I feel this way about certain things? She's just a sounding board for me that is unrelated to any aspect of my life that just gives me like hard facts.
Yes.
It's like either keep doing what you're doing or like you're being crazy.
Yeah.
Like just go on like whoop,
yeah,
turn it around,
yeah,
pick it up, and then let's get it moving.
So who are your people in your life that could be like honest with you, brutally honest to where like it can hurt your feelings,
sure,
but their intent is not
always
to hurt your feelings? Who are those people for you?
So my great grandmother was my number one. Okay. She was always the best person. Losing her is hard, you know. I'm not gonna get emotional, but you know, she was my person.
Yeah,
my person. I have a core group of girlfriends that I lean into.
Yeah, they
lean into me. It's not all sunshine and roses all the time, and I think that's what true friendship is about.
Absolutely.
There's no judgment. You can be honest. They'll give me constructive criticism, and
does it always feel constructive?
No. You know, like I have this funny thing, and I'm like, I love feedback. I love feedback. And then like you do these really? Like personality and job traits, and it's like, you don't like feedback. And I'm like, that's not true. But it does. It hurts. But again, with wisdom and maturity.
Yeah.
Am I 10 years ago, I'd have been defensive and been like, whatever, you're wrong. But it really is a self-reflection.
But I feel like when you grow up with a parent that is very strict and they're very hard on you, it kind of creates this like internal like perfectionism where when you strive to be perfect, it is hard to accept feedback, especially from the people who you're trying to be perfect for, right? I probably have said this in every single episode of like taking your purpose away from people. When you live your life to please your great grandmother or your husband or your friends, you know, when you build a life around pleasing people like that, they end up shaving one by one. You end up losing them one by one. And then you're left standing thinking, well, what am I doing this for? You know, and then you have to revisit your purpose. Then you have to revisit, you know, well, okay, God, why did you call me to this? Because this entire time, like, I've been performing for people instead of like trying to figure out what, and I'm not saying that this is your story. This is like common for like so many people, especially professionals, because also back then, parents, grandparents, they weren't so heavily focused on their careers as they were focused on families. And now I feel like there's been like this generational shift where it's like, no, family is important, but so I got to get to the money, okay?
Right.
Right.
Well, it's true, and I think that was the 30. You know, like that's where I was in my 30s, and you nailed it. Like, I'm not a people pleaser, but I want people around me to be happy, and like I want to fulfill them also, which comes with a cost, a personal cost.
For sure.
And just like you said, those people shave off, and they do, and they shave a part of you away, and it makes you second guess and like self-doubt certain things, like why was I giving so much of myself? And it's my perfectionism or perfectionist mentality is internal. Externally, people are like, what's wrong with you? Like, you're like fine, but it's the internal struggle to just make sure that I'm meeting the expectation of what I've set, and what I've learned, and has been hard lessons over the last handful of years, is that I'm okay. I am okay in my own skin, being who I am, and you know what? That comes along with not being perfect. I make a lot of mistakes.
And if only we could see the way that everybody else receives us. If only we could see the way that everybody else thinks of us, and that's not even important. If we could really just believe that how God sees us.
That's right.
If we could see that person, I mean, perfectionism
so awesome.
wouldn't even be a thing. But then also, the enemy knows your heart just the same way that you know your heart's desires, and perfectionism to me is like a very toxic distraction. that for most people it is internal, and it is a thing that like I'm clearly nobody's walking around here like bragging about being a perfectionist anymore, because you know, for our parents' generation that was almost like like an honorable thing.
Sure. Yeah.
To be a perfectionist, until that sort of thing starts to bleed over into other people, and then they can't appreciate the flaws about themselves. Yep. But then this is also when vulnerability becomes a superpower, because then you realize, like, I really don't have to be this person that I think I'm supposed to be in my head, and I can share these things with this very intimate, very small group of people. Yep. And they can kind of build me out of this, they could dig me out of this dark hole that we sometimes crawl ourselves into.
Absolutely.
And then we can go to church and cry every Sunday.
Every Sunday. Every Sunday.
I used to be just like that. Whenever we were going to church, I'm like, every Sunday in praise and worship, I'm like, girl, this music, is it really hitting you like this? Is it God or is it the music? Is the music this good?
I know, and I can't carry a tune, so of course, like when, you know, you've got the people that like can sing so, but that is a gift. That is a absolute gift, trust me. Whoever says like, oh no, everybody can sing, they cannot.
Well, God don't care, because he said make a joyful noise. Was it God that said that? Did I make that up? I don't know where that is in the Bible. Do not quote me.
I don't know if my noise sounds joyful. It sounds like, you know, cats fighting in the alley, but it makes me feel good, and I'm like, yes, good. I am getting it in my car and in the shower. So.
Then it is a joyful noise.
Joyful noise.
May not be joyful to your husband. Or for the people who can hear you in church. Or
to the people who are sitting next to me in traffic who are like.
But for you and
she loves that song. She loves that
song. For you and God, it sounds
Right.
amazing.
That's right.
So what's next for you? Right now, this is your last year as the chairwoman of the Best Dressed Ball. How does that feel, like letting that go?
So I'll still stay involved in some capacity.
Of course.
I will still stay on the executive board just because it's so important to continue the work. Mm-hmm. But I'm really excited what's next for me. I'm really excited to I talked about the impact circle earlier, taking that next level. This was created with Tanya Tubes-Gotro. It was her brainchild, and it's a bigger, we both had on our hearts, and she had a real strong conviction that like God is calling us to do something bigger.
For sure.
And so that's what I'm excited. How cool will it be to like be able to touch more people and more women and just help develop them? So many people ask me like, how do I get in, like, you volunteer for so much stuff, like how do you even get involved in that?
Yeah.
That's the hardest part. People have the want, I think everybody wants to do something and give what they can in their season.
Yeah.
But it's like, how do I even get started? I don't even know where to go. Yeah. And so this gives us the opportunity to create and build somewhere to go and flourish.
Yeah.
So that's what's next for me. It's just a bigger picture. I mean, I've had dreams about this, and as we're kind of talking and it's growing and snowballing and the concept's getting bigger and bigger, it's like, what if we could grow this to other markets and other cities?
You're literally sitting here reading my mind, because I'm like, what if y'all build this thing that then becomes like a training platform for all nonprofits?
And we could like become like inspirational speakers and like content providers like
absolutely
regions and nation. I don't know. Like that's what I dream about.
First of all, Michelle, I would love to see you doing public speaking. And inspiring
Talk a lot of
women.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
I don't know. We'll let your guests determine that, because they're like, oh.
No, I think my guests. I think that they absolutely are going to enjoy you and this episode. You literally have built a life of service and dedication to communities and different causes. Will you retire any of this?
Probably not ever.
Yeah.
The work is never done, right?
Yeah.
I don't care whether it's with American Cancer Society. I don't care if it's in our community. I don't care if it's within our cultures. I have a tremendous amount of friends that span a wide variety of culture and ethnicity. And I'm a sponge and I love to learn and I want to be involved. And you say, what does my friend say about me? That connector, that person. That's who I want to be until my last breath. I want to continue to love on people and just give, not taking away from me, but just giving what I can to other people, because you never know how an encounter is going to change the trajectory of somebody's day, week, or even life.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I was put on this earth to do.
You absolutely were. And Michelle, I am so happy that I have gotten the opportunity to meet you.
Literally.
And to know you.
And that's what life's about. I don't know how people can have such awkward interactions with people, because
no, I don't know
connect.
how people can have awkward interactions with you.
Oh. Thank you. That's my gift.
I've seen
right?
it. Yeah, but that is totally your gift.
But I too have enjoyed getting to know you. I love like what you're doing, your passion, your heart, your family.
Thank you.
You're such good people, and I just appreciate the opportunity to get to know you better and like where this friendship's gonna go.
Yeah.
So.
So thank y'all once again for tuning in to the Curate Network. Thank you for getting to know Michelle. Those of you who did not know her, she's literally, y'all, if you ever get an opportunity to meet this woman in person, she'll instantly become your favorite person, your bestie. They're always laughing at me because I got
1,000 besties.
Yeah.
It's good people.
Yeah. But thank y'all. Tune in for the next episode. Stay connected with us, and we love you.
Thank you so much.